Welcome to Tension Discussions. This is our 9th episode, and today on the show we have the producer of Fetish Weekend,
Éric Paradis. Come on to the show.
I am coming with my burden. This is me, and this is the Fetish Weekend.
Is it
Okay.
that big of a burden?
Well, it's actually bigger. It's just a metaphorical representation of the...
It seems to be quite managed.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's well packaged, too. I see some obvious skills.
Courtesy of Will.
You know what they say? When there's a will, there's a way.
Wow.
When there's a... Well, you can reinterpret it any way you want.
I haven't heard that before.
You haven't heard that?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, jeez. That would have taken me by surprise. Yeah.
So Fetish Weekend, a ton of bricks.
Well, it's kind of like the burden of restarting an event after 1,088 days since the close of the last one. And the burden of bricks represents, I think, the uncertainties of exercising and production in the field of tourism and entertainment or events. So, yeah, the event per se is not burdenful, but the uncertainty of the era we live in is certainly representing a certain load of burden, weight.
So you didn't find it was a burden before COVID?
No.
No?
No, especially the last 3 or 4 years, I felt that things were just aligning themselves as they should be. I mean, even to this day, this year I feel things are kind of aligning themselves, but they're coming very late in the pre-production process. And that's burdensome, because when you're a producer of an international event, there's almost like a delay, or you need to be ahead if you want to elicit a response from potential attendees all over the world, or artists or designers. You need to basically create the buzz as far back as 8 months before the event. So
what's been the greatest challenge with organizing this year?
I think it's relocating the event, losing the host hotel that we had for 15 years, and that type of loyalty to find a new dynamic. I mean, whether it's geographically speaking or if it's a hotel, whenever you enter a partnership, you're dancing. And, in this era, we don't know which song we're going to be dancing to because of the uncertainty. So that's one thing. And then you have a new dance partner, a new hotel. So you don't know the song, and you don't know how the other dance partner is going to move. And that's the bricks. That's the metaphorical representation of that type of uncertainty. Yeah. But that's part of the game. I mean, some people have it harder, and some people have it heavier, and other people have it softer.
So in the past, Fetish Weekend took place in the village mostly.
Pretty much so.
Pretty much. And this year, as I understand, it's not really possible. So can you tell us about what it's gonna look like this year?
It's going to look like as beautiful as you are. But really, it's going to be you. I mean, in the sense of youthfulness, in the sense of rebirth. So every time you have a newborn baby, it's always, the baby is always beautiful. And when the baby is 14 years old and he's brought back to your home with the police because he did some graffiti in the subway or worse, it's a different type of burden. So because we're entering a phase of rebirth, I think it's going to be very beautiful, but we are going to regig and reposition temporarily some events outside of the village. We're going to be closer, well, we're going to be in the Quartier des Spectacles. But the rebirth, it's coming with a new vision for the event. And the idea of the new vision, and I think Tension is a part of it, it's to create, rather than an event in the city, it's to surround the event and showcase all the different venues that throughout the year are catering to the needs of fetishists, alternate lifestyle, shibari, bondage, any type of community, and not just based on fetishism or specifically to BDSM or whatever, but also LGBTQ plus and queer communities. So it's we're opening the doors and we're allowing or allocating the event to have an organic rebirth, and that's very beautiful. I mean, it's like a tree or a flower or a nice dress, or
it needs some pruning from time to time.
Always.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't stick to a formula too long, because at one point you become redundant. I mean, it's wanting to be resilient and always trying to prove that the initial concept or idea was right from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
But anybody who does that is cutting, like fresh growth from a flower.
So you're taking advantage of this rebirth to like change things that you didn't like,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
Your child was doing graffitis and you're
Well,
trying to re-educate.
yeah, it's kind of, it is indeed a quite potent metaphor. I mean, it's very nice to be able to use this type of imagery, because any type of event or any type of concept is almost like a child, so that it has a growth, and then the child can end up, being a politician, which could be terrible, or could end up, opening a shibari studio, which
to some parents could be terrible.
yeah, but that's the curve. And at one point, the idea proves itself, and the parents look at that 5 years, 10 years, and in my case, it took maybe 30 years. But you eventually you get a certain recognition, because the concept of the business is never about a business. It's about a social outreach. Anybody that starts a business is not about starting a business. It's a person that, in a way, consciously or subconsciously, wants to create a social outreach to others, either to have a recognition or to open the door to a dialogue with others. And yeah, I'm fascinated by that. I mean, in the case of this place specifically and other places, I look at the point of direction, and I feel the intent. The point of direction, as a visionary, I can look forward, but as a human, I feel the intent. And sometimes it's not always easy to read, so I will use silly jokes, which you've been exposed to.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, I find that fascinating, that evolution of dialogue. And this is the reason why I started the Fetish Weekend all these years ago, was to allocate myself a place of dialogue, criticism, positive, negative, but creative. And it's been very rewarding over the years.
Mm.
Yeah.
So tell us about that dialogue then. What is it that you're trying to convey?
in the beginning, I was trying to show that through the teamwork and everything that we did, my hope was that I could show that Montreal is the best and most welcoming city in the world. That was my goal. I said, I can take my money and I can go on a vacation somewhere and be in a hotel and, you know, reap the rewards of my work with instant gratification being in someone else's party. But then I thought, if I do that, I'm only going to be rewarding myself with this expenditure. And I said, why don't I use that potential of growth and plant a seed in the city that I believe most? So that was the initial idea. And then there were just, you know, logistics issues that you learn your craft, you learn the pits and falls of and the success of doing something. And I would say for the last 5 years, so the first 5, you climb the hill with your initial idea. The next 5 years, you stabilize your momentum. And then after that, you kind of open your world to engage into a dialogue where people come forward and they make your initial concept evolve. It's no longer about the city of Montreal being the most welcoming city. It is about the people welcoming other people. So we've transcended the point of geographic value into human value and enlightenment in this kind of journey.
I'm curious. Fetish Weekend is, of course, a very niche event, and fetish is still looked upon as a kind of, oh my God, like, can't believe people do that by the world out there. Like, what kind of challenges have you faced dealing with the city, dealing with neighborhoods?
Well, when you have a person in a position of power in any administrative value, that person sadly will use their frustration to exercise power and control over others. So the person who becomes empowered with a legal mandate or ordinances of the city will come with baggage. So there's certain difficulties, like to do a street fashion show in the village, it took 6 years, and we had to wait until one specific councillor in Ville-Marie retired.
Wow. Because
the project was constantly being blocked. From the angle of the citizens, we've never felt any type of issues regarding some resistance, because we are proud citizens of the village and proud citizens of our city. And we would never, as a commercial entity and as a person, do anything that could damage the reputation we have and the reputation of the city, or bring any harm to the citizens. But we are always in a territory of negotiation and renegotiation when it comes to administrative circumstances. So we have to reinvent ourselves. And the resistance that you expressed, I have to say, because I've been in this business and this lifestyle for very, very long time, I see that these are cycles of acceptation, very gradual. You prove your reputation, and then we face certain cycles of gentrification. And sadly, these are based on perspective of words, not even actions, not even human representation, or, how can I say, economic downfalls. People read words, say, no, we cannot have that. This is a bad word. It's a word. It doesn't mean anything. Don't judge the book by its cover, Try to interpret the book by what you feel. Let the book prove itself to you. So, I mean, we've had to do that over and over again in the course of the last 27 years in the village.
Yeah, I mean, we had to do that ourselves, right? Before being able to get our license to do what we do. We're not a shibari school, we're a centre de formation professionnelle. There we go.
Yeah.
Center for Professional Training.
Oh, so I would like, you know, I mean, I think the fetish weekend would be a centre de déformation professionnelle. But, but in the sense that, you know, whatever, I mean, from a business point of view, yes, you dance. You do the song and dance. You're the rabbit, you know, following the hedgehog. And, you know, these are sometimes entities that are difficult to connect. But if you just touch the little paws together, you will find a point of direction, a point of communion.
Sometimes your metaphors are like, I don't know what you're talking about anymore.
No, if I use a metaphor, sometimes that is a little bit too far out, is because I'm addressing that metaphor to a third party that is not necessarily here physically, but could be on the other side of the camera and looking at this, say, oh my God, what did he just say? You know, but I have to kind of insert some humoristic content, especially when we talk about, you know, perception of taboos or city regulation.
Yeah.
If I don't insert something friendly and, you know, humorful, I think...
it could all be a little bit dry.
Yeah, it would be a bit too much. But yeah, I think you understand the perspective. The rabbit and the hedgehog normally would never kind of frolic together. But I thought about this for a long time. I said, but if they actually touch their paw, the little thing that touches the ground, they're both very similar. They have these little pillows. Okay, change of subject. But I mean, I'm taking you to the garden, you know, and the hedgehog has the key to the garden, but the rabbit wants to go to the garden. So,
yeah,
whatever lifts the burden of the bricks is my ability to come out of left field and create these imageries that are straight out of a movie from the 1930s.
Sometimes I wonder, Éric, if people just say yes to you because they're like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. They're like, what is it that you wanted? And then they're like, okay, fine, sure.
Okay, when it happens, it does happen. Sometimes people are dumbfounded. They don't get it. Sometimes people intuitively, they don't hear the words, but they feel the intent. But every time I feel that the person did not get a broader awareness of the joke or the other side of the production, I will do what I did when we had one of our first or second meetings. I said, hey, you guys aren't laughing at my jokes. And then you said to me, well, we have a different pace when it comes to reacting to humor. And it was just kind of exactly what I said, you know, different entities, the age difference or the perspective. Oh, he's the producer of the Fetish Weekend. You know, he must be whatever, you know. But you have to have an awareness that you have to build a bridge, and bridges are not built in, you know, one hot chocolate. You know, it takes a few more.
To me, I feel like that is always what you've been trying to do. Like Fetish Weekend for me was like your attempt at building a bridge to show people possibility and like accessibility and
yes,
kind of give an entrance that is not so scary. Let's say.
I think you're spot on. Like I realized that if you have we will say it's a business, but I would rather call it a vessel. If you have a vessel, you know, some kind of a spaceship or some kind of a ship or some kind of I mean, if you're going to bring people on board, why have one door? I mean, if somebody wants to climb through the window, for crying out loud, let them climb through the window. You know, open the windows. You know, if there's too many people that wants to walk to come into the vessel, I mean, create other doors, and they can they can be done in metaphorical ways, but essentially, the common ground between any living entity is culture, art, laughter. You know, I mean, it's easier to laugh at a meeting than to say, "Oh my God, I'm so touched by what you're saying, I'm starting to cry." Whoa, you don't know how to respond to that. It's very unusual. So use a door that people, they see a little opening. And yeah, I would say the beginning of the entity of Fetish Weekend was to bring people close to me. So I wanted to be loved, and I wanted to be recognized for certain skills I may or may not have, or I may develop eventually. But fundamentally, I wanted to be loved. After 5 years, I realized that true love from friends is unconditional. I don't need to use a vessel, a corporate vessel, to allocate love to come into my life. At that point, after the first 5 years, I say, why don't I use the people on board of the vessel so that the vessel brings love to other people who sometimes they don't get the recognition that we receive as people in positions of power or decisional purpose. So why don't the vessel with its inhabitant pays attention to the villagers of this city and the villagers of this country and the villages of the world? They don't need to be physically in Montreal to recognize that we did something special. We're doing something special. Like we're showing.
How does Fetish Weekend here like compare to the others? Like I've never been to the others. What's your take?
Where are the others?
Well, the very interesting part of the others, and it's very interesting because the others is kind of like a movie, but the others is ourselves, but just in another reality. So it's very difficult for me to say how are the others doing, because I am not necessarily in that reality. But the others, they did something very strange. Before, it was the rubber ball. It was a German fetish ball. It was the party there. It was the torture garden party. It was all the other parties that were there before, Northbound Letter, etc., or Nuit Démonia in Paris. And after the Fetish Weekend started, well, it started to be other weekends. All the other events morphed into weekend concepts where there would be more than one day. Because if somebody invests their money to travel somewhere, it's very rare that you go to Tokyo for one night, unless you're, Klaus Schwab or, some kind of a country dictator or some type of thing like that. But we have to welcome people. So my feeling is that we created a precedent in Montreal. It existed before. In Switzerland, there was an event called Eccentric Fashion. But it was just in one hotel, and they didn't have a big ball. Then you had Dressing for Pleasure in the 80s in New York, where it was in a hotel, but they didn't have a ball outside. Then you had the rubber ball in London, and you had other events in Germany, one ball. And I looked at that, having participated at both events, and I said, why don't we combine everything? Why don't we have a big ball and we have a hotel? Why don't we become a touristic destination where we welcome our tourists in Montreal? I think it's good for the economy. And have a big ball so that we welcome the local people, and then we unite all of these people outside of the boundaries of a hotel in a venue or multiple venues. And now we've evolved to the point where it's partnerships and kind of going towards a niche. But every country has their forte. Every event has their unique qualities. And I will say, I cannot comment really, but I will say Montreal's number one quality is our awkwardness. Basically, we're fucked up. Any business that can survive in a city like Montreal has to be completely insane, because the city is not made to accommodate businesses that are growing outside of the picture frame or the garden.
Definitely.
And people love that. If you come to the Montreal Fetish Weekend, you will never be alone. If you come to the Fetish Weekend, someone will invite you for an ice cream or a poutine or a glass of milk or coffee. They will invite you to their home. They will say the second year, why don't you stay in my home? And the third year, they will say, if you're coming to the Fetish Weekend, why don't we do a party at our home? And people from other countries, when they feel that sense of communion with the local tribes, they don't get that in other countries. That's one thing that is unique to the spirit of Montrealers. We're outside. We evolve outside of any regulation or boundaries. Especially our tribe. I mean, we've established vessels that, I mean, you know.
A lot of them have problems right now with everything stopping and starting, right? They have their own issues. Some have closed, new ones are opening, but yeah. And
we're on a mission.
Very, very curious to see how it's going to be in the next few years.
We are on a mission.
Yeah.
It is not a coincidence that this year is welcoming, the Fetish Weekend is integrating all the vessels, no matter how big or how fast they are, if it's an electric car, or if it's, whatever. But everybody will have a chance to shine in that context. And you say, wow, Eric, that's great. I mean, you're going to welcome everyone into the vessel or the entity or the momentum. But one of the things that I thought when this started to take place, and I'm not even sure if we discussed it before, but if we are able to pull this one off, we're stronger together. After that, we start to have the possibility of putting our forces together and have a proper representation of being supportive for up-and-coming businesses. You've done this with you have a market. You've done this many, many times throughout the year, where you open the door to emerging artists, designers, craftspeople. I mean, if we start to have a cohesion or a cohesiveness between the singular vision and purpose and the communal vision and a broader purpose, I mean, we're unstoppable.
So my impression of the organization this year as opposed to last year, this kind of goes back to my previous question about what it's going to look like, and you gave kind of a very
I went funny.
colorful answer. Whereas I wanted to talk a little bit more specific, because my impression is in the past it was kind of reaching out to all the entities in the city who represent the King community and coming to a central point, which was at the time the hotel, and everything kind of happens in these centralized locations, because there's no longer that hotel in the picture. Now you're spreading it and you're saying, okay, but we have all these spaces, so instead of bringing everything in, let's kind of branch out?
So what you just said is exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We brought all the entities. We started in very spontaneous thing. Can we put a red carpet on the street? Yes. Can we put a tripod? Can we do some shibari on the street? Yes. Then can we start to have independent stuff simultaneously happening?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in a post-pandemic era, the original vessel or the captain of the vessel, if I may entitle myself to that
You may.
purpose, I mean, at one point, I mean, I have some obsolescence. And if I'm not able to recognize my own obsolescence as a conductor or a captain or whatever you want to call it, then the vessel is doomed to fail sooner or later. So now it is time to sprout the satellites and have a chance for every entity, be it a physical representation, a commercial representation, or a pure artistic representation, or hedonistic enthusiasm representation. Let them shine. Let them become beacons of light. Then after we try that, we regroup individually together, and then we do a survey. We engage into a dialogue, and we say, well, the poster was not nice, or the representation was not as we hoped, or how come there was nobody in the limousine? Well, because so we will restabilize.
But so in light of that, can you just talk a little bit about what, like, how it's gonna happen?
So basically, you want me to sell the event and promote it.
Kind of, like, tell us kind of what is it actually
I
gonna
thought
look
we
like?
were not going to promote anything. I
But-
thought we were going to do into abstract,
But
twiddly.
I want to get excited, Eric.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay, so I will describe it, and it's very difficult because when I go into technical descriptions of timelines and who does what, where, when.
Just like general overview of what's.
So you said very eloquently that we were close to the hotel and we were kind of promoting a certain area of town, which is the village. Now we no longer have that specific foothold, but we have another foothold, which is the one we started at Cabaret Cleo's, which is, nobody thought about this, but Cleopatra's is celebrating its 45th anniversary this year. The owner, Johnny Zumbulakis, has been there forever. So,
And can I just interject how miraculously that place survived gentrification
Yes.
and stood up to the city and had all kinds of stuff built around it,
Yeah.
but managed to still survive.
well, I mean, people can do their own research, but in the city of Montreal, in the last 45, 50 years, there's only one instance that an entity resisted expropriation and actually succeeded. And it is Cleopatra's. And it appeared to be one of the weakest entities because, hey, it's just a strip joint. Hey, it's just transgender people, waitresses, it's just gay people. It's just female impersonators. It's non-consequential to our culture. But what is culture? It is a grassroots movement. As soon as culture is being subsidized, it is immediately compromised. So a place like Cabaret Cleo could never exist in a cultural compromise situation. And the artists and the owners fought to maintain that independence, that free will.
Yeah.
So what surrounds that building is glass and, steel. It is void of passion, and it is void of grassroots growth. It is filled with subsidies. Cleopatra's is fucked up. It is
In the
derelict,
most beautiful way.
but it is amazing.
And ornery.
It is the only place where you can
And what?
Ornery.
ornery. I mean, it has stuff that's been there for 135 years. It was built in 1885. It was a costume place. Joseph Bonton, one of the first costume house. You know, the top hats and all of that. Then it became a burlesque. Then it became a speakeasy. Then it became a nightclub in the 60s and the 50s, this type of place. And then it shut down when they had the Olympics. They started to gentrify the city with the mayor. And then it reopened and it said, hey, you know, if they're going to shut us down, they might shut us down for a good reason. Let's hire, all our staff is going to be transgender people. In 1977.
Wow.
I mean, where in the world? Who did something like that? Who
Incredible.
accommodated that? And then who sustained that for 45 years? A guy sitting in his office 6-7 days a week. Then the city comes to that person and they say, you know, your idea, your little sunlight on your building, it's no good anymore. Us, we're going 15 stories. Your ideas are no good in our city. Yeah, you kept the sidewalk clean, but you're no longer wanted. We've got bigger ideas. Yeah, like an immigration's office that looks like a jail, or businesses that are all subsidized because nobody can afford the rent unless they're subsidized. So, enough about the political stuff, but this is for me, it's very passionate. You know, it is neither bricks or burdenful, and it is neither funny, but it is what we will contribute in our life to one and another throughout our life. We will each have a chance to go at bat and do the right fight for the righteous cause. And Cleopatra's now, after all these years, when we're facing instability and uncertainties, that's our home. So we recenter there. And because this is a place of, you know, knowledge and we're comfortable there, this is what gives us the ability to launch all the satellites this year.
Okay.
That's the only stability we have. And I have to say, other people, or places like the Bain Mathieu, which is another venue in Montreal, I mean, they're bending over backwards to accommodate our awkwardness. They're happy. They see this. They say, all the people I've met this year, the printer, I go to a printer. I've been to the same printer for Le Communicateur in Montreal North for 18 years. They tell me, you're the only guy coming in for 18 years with the same purpose, the same business. So we cohabit, and this type of synergy and osmosis, especially in alternative lifestyle, if we don't realize that we need to work together, or at least have an awareness of the garden and how the roots are talking to each other, some idiot from the city is going to come and just chop off the tree because it's not in the right place anymore. And they've got this is a metaphor, obviously. It's not chopping a tree, but it's chopping an idea. It's chopping a purpose without giving it a chance to give fruit. Yeah, the tree is secondary to the purpose, but the fruits, sorry.
Back to...
I don't want to interrupt you.
Back to Fetish Weekend.
Oh, yes.
And
Sorry.
that's going to look like.
Oh, okay. We have to go through this. Okay, no problem.
We need to get excited about
Okay,
Fetish
okay.
Weekend. We want to get some hype.
Let me get some more coffee. I haven't slept in 36 hours,
Oh,
but
I
I
won't
will
ask.
kind of... No, please. No, I mean, it's not what you think. it's we're preparing a show, so I kind of curating something, and we're prepare. I mean, I would like to prepare a younger generation to eventually,
Take over.
kind of take my place. So okay, excitement. How does that song go? No, I'm just kidding. I'm very excited because of the partnership events. So normally we would have singular events and once in a while maybe something. But this year we're starting with a bang. So on the Thursday night of the fetish weekend, we are going to do 2 events simultaneously. The first event is going to be called Perversions. It's going to be held at a place called Paradis, which is one of the dungeons. It's one of the entities that survived the pandemic. And Perversions is based on somebody named Luc Perversions, which was one of the entities that, a person that pushed for the creation of a fetish event in Montreal. And sadly, Luc left us in 2019, a few weeks after the fetish weekend. And ever since he passed away, we said with his ex-partner, Goddess Mai, we said we need to find a way to pay tribute to the guy. So we're going to do it in the best way that we can and in respect of his memory. Something very hospitable, which is Perversions. And it's an event about people who enjoy the DS, or domination and submission lifestyle. At the same time, we open the door to something that is really amazing, which is the vision of irony. Irony not as in, but they are a person. And they've created a vessel where, well, I think you guys performed there. So the Cabaret King has become something completely outside of the boundaries of straight fetish stuff where there's a pro-dom or, rubber hoods or whips or whatever. And it became a place where all the queer community can express their interpretation of fetish.
And this
whatever
is
it is.
at Café Cleo.
Cabaret Cleopatra or Café Cleo or whatever. The ground floor is a strip joint, and it's called Café Cléopâtre. And upstairs, it's a cabaret venue. It's a burlesque type of place. So that's called Cabaret Cleo.
With a stage and proper lighting and...
The stage, well, proper light. I mean, there's definitely a stage, but at least when you go there, you know what to expect. And it is the last venue in Montreal that has a very unique type of stage, which is a stage that is in the audience. So you can actually see the shows from 3 sides.
Yes.
So the only way to breach the 4th wall is if you actually come tumbling down the stairs from the dressing room. But that's another story. But yeah, Cabaret Cleo is kind of unique in that respect, that it has comfortable seating, and very gradually we're improving the noble fixtures and keeping some. Yeah. Because if you change some things too fast, people lose their sense of reality. So yeah, that's going to be we're very excited. I mean, I'm excited because I never know what's going to happen. And it's this is the best example where we open the windows to the bus 13 years ago to this young person who gradually evolved irony, and they created something that is unique in the world. I mean, no other straight fetish event opened a window like that. It's become its own shuttle, its own vessel. So yeah, we're very excited with the Cabaret King Queer this year.
Okay,
Friday?
So that's Thursday. Yes.
That's just Thursday. Imagine, I mean, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. But Friday we decided to go crazy. So Thursday was already exciting, but Friday afternoon workshops. So we've got Diamond Blue, we've got Malicia, we have Simone Justice, and we have Jane Boone. These are all people who work the trade of pro-doming, whether it's through literature or actually applied being pro-doms. So it is, Friday afternoon is a celebration of the female entity that is spreading wisdom, because pro-doming or mistresses or dominatrixes have been tabooified by society. But if there would be more pro-doms, maybe there would be less wars.
We actually had Mistress Melissa on the show recently.
Yeah, she's she's the new generation. So we're very excited to have that in the afternoon, and then we're going to build up to a rubber regalia event at Opalas. That's another partnership event that's organized by Opalas, Spike Inu, and Warm Rubret. So it is, I would like to say it is gay, mixed type of event, but they created something that we know will appeal to our clientele. The clientele of the Fetish Weekend is very progressive in the sense that they don't see boundaries of gender or whatever. I mean, the whole world of fetish as we know it, I mean, either started or was heavily promoted by male gay community, the rubber, contingent. So that is going to be their moment to shine, and we're very happy that they reached out to us to allow us to, they opened the doors for us to go in their world. So we start the Friday night with that. After that, we have Club L, which is, are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, we have Club L, which is a swingers club, restaurant. It's very high end, and we're going to do an event there called the Cirque Fétiche.
Okay.
So we're actually going to have international, well, I say we, but it is a partnership event, but they are organizing this event and curating the art. I mean, all we're going to do is possibly subsidize the poutine, because they're going to offer poutine. So
in their high-end restaurant.
it is a high-end restaurant in Quebec cannot be without some form of
fancy poutine.
Fancy poutine. I mean, it might be a
Makes sense.
petite poutine, but it is going to be a
Healthy
poutine.
portion.
Well, a healthy portion, exactly. I mean, if you're somebody you don't have the acquired taste of poutine and you come from Japan, I mean.
And you're given this giant plate. You're like, ooh.
If you're given the barrel, that's not gonna work. So we're very excited to create something with them. And again, this is an entity that's been roughed up by the pandemic. And they said, they could say, well, we're not sure. But they opened the door and they said, yes, send us your clients, send us your tribe. We will, I asked, all I ask is please make the people feel welcome. Know when they're coming in that they might be coming from Switzerland or Australia. So that's the second event on Friday night. These are all running concurrently, pretty much at the same time. Then we have
choices to be made.
Well, choices, but also it's a satellite vessel. So by osmosis, if you have a party somewhere where 200 people go and they're regulars of that specific venue, be it Opalas or Club L or Tension for that matter, by osmosis, if 20, 30, 40, 50 people from the Fetish Weekend go there, a dialogue is open, and then, the grassroots movements will take place. I mean, the Fetish Weekend was grassroots, but it's become an establishment. It's established after all these years. So now it's time to spread the grassroots movement to other places. And that's what I'm hoping, that some kind of osmosis is going to be created on the Friday, which is going to create a longer lasting effect or precedent so that we can build upon future years. the next one is you. It is tension. So we had a discussion and you decided, yes, we open the place and we do this. So from a creative point of view, you know that you have 100% control of the creativity, but the only thing is that we keep that bridge in the village. You are the bridge to the past because you are in the village. But I never look at this event, this partnership as a bridge from the past. If I did that, I would be shortchanging you. It is a bridge to the future. That's how I see it. So it is the bridge for other entities to come into the village in the years forward, or it is the bridge to your own vision of what the fetish weekend will become. So you might decide, hey, Eric, we had a great time this year. It was a little bit crazy, so many people, but
we like that.
well, I always have to look and say, oh my God, the phone rings. At one point we had a party in this building many, many years ago with L'Orage. They were upstairs, right in this building. And the party is finished, and it was an after party. So people went there, my phone rings. I had an old cell phone, and it was burning in my hands. I felt like the devil was calling me, but it was GP, the owner. And he said, Éric, il y a un petit problème. I said, what? I'm so tired. Il y a 235 personnes, and it was half of the size that you have. And he said, tu viens immédiatement. And I was privileged that night. I was hanging out with some amazing, performers from Japan, and they didn't speak English. So I said, please follow me. And we arrived.
You brought more people?
Well, I don't know how to say it, but when I walked in, it was these terrible eyes looking at me. Everybody that were working the venue said, this is completely out of control. And as soon as they saw this Japanese performer, they turned and they went on their best behavior. And they said, back then there was no shibari in Montreal, and they said, do you do shibari? And she just pulled out one little piece of rope, and instead of saying hi, I do it, or she didn't speak English. Actually, she said she didn't speak English, but she did. I only learned that a few days later. But she started to tie up the people working there, one after the other, in 3 minutes. And people were blown away. So after that, peace was made, obviously. But so ever since that, I dread that that phone call at midnight or at 3 in the morning or whatever. I'm, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I'm exhausted. But I have a feeling that this is going to be a little bit more controlled circumstances, because you have a knowledge of how the place works. And I know that if we have 4 events on the same night, possibly 5, there's going to be a certain ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable that when it comes to tension, that the welcome is going to be great, and that the adaptive abilities in spontaneity and chaos is going to be quite entertaining, possibly rewarding. Who knows? But it is important to have a foothold in the village. I've been in the village since 1995 as a business owner with the Fetish Cafe. Now I'm out of the village, but you're here. So, what better representation can we hope for in an era of gentrification?
And to give a little glimpse to the kind of party we're going to have, it's going to be a little bit more rope-centric, but a play party. So other elements. We'll probably have rope scenes happening all night for people who want to see shibari,
Yeah.
and other stuff happening
Stuff?
concurrently.
What is stuff? Is that the stuff that they put in cookies or?
Yeah, exactly
Stuff?
that stuff.
Okay. But I mean,
The
I
yummy
could ask you
stuff.
the question. I mean, can you please define when you say other stuff? There will be
Other
other
stuff
stuff,
like
or will it take us straight to hell? I mean, will we be damned if you mention
well,
what
for
stuff
sure
is?
we're all going to hell because
Okay.
that's where the party's at.
Cool. Hell, cool. You get the.
So we
it's a
haven't
joke.
defined exactly yet.
No, but we'll have some PlayStations and
What is a PlayStation?
What is a PlayStation?
I mean, what is play and what is a station? Is it stationary or?
there we go.
Okay, so it's a
A stationary object
Communal?
for play.
okay. What about if you had a stationary object or a PlayStation, as you say, that could be moved? Would that
That
be
could
a
happen.
PlayStation, a movable PlayStation, or?
Yeah, it's like the Switch. You
So
can-
technically, that's the stuff that
And
That's the stuff.
dreams
one
are
of
made
the
of.
things
Yeah.
that we would like to offer is small, short experiences for people who've never tried rope, possibly the opportunity to feel rope on their skin. So
Yeah.
nothing crazy, no big scenes, but
Yeah,
just
cool.
a little something to give them a taste of
Yeah.
what it's about.
Mhm.
It's
I lo-
still in the
I-
works.
I love it. I mean, that's great because I mean you're creating a certain structure, but you're also allocating space outside of the structure, the PlayStation. I mean, you know that this is something that kind of evolves. So I'm very excited at that because I mean, this is the first time we actually discussed this. So
Mhm.
obviously it's going to translate well to the website or, you know, as we promote this.
Mhm.
Yeah, very exciting. I mean, I wish I would be able to clone myself. And
Me too, because the other parties sound like a lot of fun.
yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of a problem when you create these satellites because people who are in the organizational positions will not be able necessarily to enjoy that. But we will find a communal space and
Maybe
time.
on Saturday. we
Yeah,
can-
Saturday, but we're not there yet. We also have the underworld.
Mhm.
So happening at Cabaret Cleo's, Philip Fate, who is a DJ and a photographer. So he's, you know, a consultant of the Fetish Weekend and a great
Mhm.
visual artist. Now that must be 10 years of doing the underworld. And basically it's a dance party for the gothic crowd,
Mhm.
a little bit more vampiric or whatever, but at the same time, with the fetish, you know, under the fetish umbrella, and because it's Cleopatra's, celebrating the transgender and cross-dressing communities. So, building, again, it's a bridge, it's a place of comfort. Before we used to do that at the hotel. We had a transgender cross-dressing cocktail.
Mm.
And it had been established for a few years, but now we're kind of destabilized. So we thought Cleopatra's underworld,
Mhm.
you know, let's kind of bridge that together and
Mhm.
see what can happen.
So is that more of a dance party, or are there
Yeah,
also
it-
going to be PlayStations there?
Well, there's a few PlayStations, but I would say that one is going to be more of a dance party because the PlayStations are going to be here. They're going to be at Club L, and the Rubber Regalia at Palace is going to have, obviously, PlayStation. It is a dungeon. So basically, you don't want to oversaturate.
Mhm.
You want people to be able to travel where they feel a certain kinship.
Do
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah. So for sure there's going to be out of the boundaries or out of the structure of what we're disclosing right now, but we will see. We will see what happens. It means there's always entities in Montreal that say, hey, you know, Friday night I'm doing a pool party in Belleuil or some kind of a weird suburb. I mean, every suburb is weird, but Belleuil might be weirder than other places, Drummondville, Belleuil, other places like that. But they have pools. So I would imagine stuff like that is Did I just say stuff?
You
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. Things are going to happen, occurrences, things that go bump in the night. So Friday, that's pretty much what we have. You know, there might be an after party at L'Espace. We're still trying, which is a small, very intimate venue in the village, but we're trying to score something in the village where Circus used to be. So there's another hall, and I'm surprised that the business association of the village didn't say, hey, you know, we got this. But we're going to try also to do a spontaneous dinner. I forgot about the welcome dinner on Thursday because
yes.
it's still not set, you know. But people need to eat.
People do need to eat.
For those who are more rope centric too, the rope kink is going to go pretty late into the night here. So on Friday.
Probably until 3 a.m. like all the other venues.
Yeah, I mean, Montreal is a city that rarely sleeps during the fetish weekend, but, you know, some of us
No,
need
we sleep after.
We need to, yeah, we sleep after, but we need to have some beauty sleep once in a while. Otherwise, you know, you will end up like me.
Yeah. What about the Saturday? Is there a lot of stuff going on Saturday?
Saturday is basically we regroup everybody at the Bay Mathieu for the Kink Ecstasy Ball. It was formerly called the Late Ecstasy Ball, but because of the uncertainties and the fact that we want to welcome all the communities, even though all the communities attended the Late Ecstasy, but the name, again, it's a question of perception. So Irony came up with the idea of calling it the Kink Ecstasy, and I thought, okay, that's a great idea. Why don't?
Inclusive.
Yeah, it's more inclusive, and you know, I'm kind of an old fool, but in a certain way, I'm going to learn new tricks, and that type of vision can only come with somebody who evolves without boundaries. At a certain age, you have certain boundaries, physically, usually. We don't want to go there. But yeah, so we have an evolution of late ecstasy into kink ecstasy. The Bay Mathieu is a great place. It's a party venue. We're going to welcome different types of artists. I mean, for performances, structured or outside of the structure. There might be some playstations. There's going to be the Dolls and Goddesses VIP Lounge, which is kind of an idea of where people can express their alter egos, you know, in a certain way. I mean, the whole place is about an expression or a celebration of self-expression. But we will kind of allocate certain technicalities or certain production values in areas where people can be in a defined container or area or place in time, and other things can be happening spontaneously. And it's very exciting because it's the big challenge in an era of post-pandemic. I mean, with a government that has, it's like a snake eating its own tail. We live in an era of madness. So at least we need to have one night when all the tribes can come together, from satellites to, you know, kind of the nucleus of a star, and then it explodes in a most prolific and positive way. It's like a dress.
Yeah.
Like a dress?
Well,
I guess there's going to be a dance party and
it is a
with
dance
some
party.
house music.
Amazing DJs. DJ Dekran, DJ Philip Fate, DJ Vicky Devika are going to be there. We're testing a new sound system in the VIP area. There's a new sound system in the dance floor pool area. The event is in a bathhouse.
Yeah.
It is an old pool, and the pool is transformed into a dance floor. So that venue has so many possibilities.
Yes.
But I think it is a dance party with stations for people to express their own brand of identity or empowerment or surrender or colorfulness. And we're all going to allocate specific spaces for people to go into that celebrative.
Do you have DMs for those events?
Always.
Yeah?
Yeah, always.
Okay.
always.
And is there anything happening during the day on Saturday?
Saturday, we're looking at, well, we have to mention this because we discussed doing a workshop, a shibari workshop at the hotel, but we were not firm exactly if we're going to do it at the hotel or there. But I think if it's just a little taste to keep a continuity of tension, this is going to be a good thing. So at this moment, we're still assembling workshops at the hotel. And one of the things that I wanted to do, and I have not had time yet to find the people who will host it. I think it would be great if we had a spontaneous visit to the botanical gardens. So the botanical gardens is great because it has these different tapestries of floral or decor, and you cannot have a better place to go there leisurely and doing some photos. So this is one of the things. It is on the list of events on Saturday afternoon. It would be great. The other idea would be to offer 1 or 2 workshops in Peace Park, right beside the hotel on Saint Laurent and René Lévesque, where these workshops would be free, obviously. So catering to the younger community, the 18 to 35s, to either do a workshop about safe consensual play or to do something more theatrical, like having somebody doing a bullwhip demonstration. But this is work in progress right now. We had started a few months ago to see what we can do with, I think it's a group called SM Consensual or something, and they were very interesting. So I said to them, why don't you represent yourself as a workshop outside of the boundaries of a ticket? You know, we make it a free happening. People bring their food, there's a picnic, whatever, beverages, it's public domain. So yeah, Saturday afternoon right now has a little bit of room to grow organically. I don't want to, you know, whether it's me or the rest of the team, we don't want to do things that are too structured all the time.
Also, we need to sleep at some point.
Some of us.
Some of us.
Well,
Some of us.
Sunday we're doing the market, so we'll have people here all afternoon.
Yeah, and then Sunday is, well,
Like
this
kinky
is kind of a
craft
first
fair.
try. Normally we do an expo, but because this year there's too much uncertainty and last minute, I mean, we can't do that. I mean, people go shopping. I mean, Il Bolero is a store in Montreal. They have some very interesting clothing. So there's some outings there on Friday and Saturday. I would assume there's other store like Séduction, who used to be Boutique Sexité, who are going to do specials and whatever. But the grassroots movement, you're going to take helm of this one this year with it's a market?
With the
It's
market,
a kinky craft fair is what we
Kinky
call
Craft
it.
Fair.
Yeah.
Good to know, because now I will mention it on the website.
It is
Thank
now
you.
a quarterly event that Tension hosts, and it will be a special edition with vendors that we haven't had before.
Yeah. It's very interesting because you see that's the point where you've empowered yourself beyond the technicalities of what we first discussed, and we're moving into something that can grow very organically for the future. And I like that kind of osmosis, and it is very interesting. So while you're going to be doing this, we're going to be doing between 2 and 4 p.m. our annual fetish photo walk, which is a bunch of people just taking the subway, and it's a secret path. And this is going to be supervised by Kent Spike Inu, which represents the gay rubber community, and Mr. Ivan, who is, has been a stronghold of the fetish weekend all these years. So they're going to supervise the photo walk. I mean, some of them don't even know. No, actually, I'm just joking. But we don't know yet what it is that we're going to do, and we always have to plan if there's rain or no rain. but Montreal is kind of an easy city when it comes to exploration. And also, the subway is going to be free with 5 stations this year. So Berry, I know, is free. Saint Laurent, which is close to the hotel, is free. So at least you get a little something when you depart for the photo walk. You take the subway and you end up somewhere, and then you make your way back. There's also the talk of ending the photo walk in a picnic in Parc La Fontaine.
Okay.
So that could be fun. So we have to play that a little bit with the rain. So there's always certain liabilities with that, but we've never had a bad one in the last 12, 13 years.
We got some wood there.
Yeah, I mean, really, we've never had in 15 years. Once we had 30 minutes of rain on the Sunday afternoon. We did street fashion shows. We never had rain. We're very, very lucky. But I think my nervous system kind of exploded every year. So
is there a fashion show this year?
There is going to be a fashion show, but because of the lateness in organizing the event, because of the restriction measures, it is not possible to do a street fashion show this year, and we're going to allocate a time period at the Bain Mathieu on Saturday for the King Ecstasy to showcase Phoenix latex from United States. That's about it for this year. We really need to, instead of going fashion, we're going more to the partnership events this year, and we will see what happens after that. But if somebody wants to have representation anytime during the fetish weekend, they can contact us, they can contact you. Like this morning, I had a great tattoo artist from Toronto contacting me through email, and I think Danielle Barr, and she wants representation at the event. She says, if it's not possible, it's fine. I'm coming anyways. But I said, no, it's great. I mean, represent yourself, and can we give it some theatricality? Can we give you more visibility?
Right. In the past, there were tattoo stations at
Bain Mathieu and other places. The Underworld had tattoo stations. We've done all kinds of different things because they're part of our community.
I did a shibari scene with somebody while she was being tattooed. I think it may have been Danielle.
Was it at Bain Mathieu?
No, it was Underworld.
Underworld. Danielle was there, and she was with Angus.
Yes.
So they
and I tied her while she was being tattooed.
Yeah, this is. I mean, I didn't have time this year because it's the last minute, a little bit to prepare the event. But they're reaching out to us. I mean, Danielle reached out and I said, yeah, sure, let's do this. But I want to find a way for any type of presentation that is going to be worth their effort and their creative input. So we're going to be working on that. We're finalizing certain logistics. So by now, we're 4 in the afternoon, and we need to take a little bit of rest. And the next party starts at 9:30 on Sunday, September 4th. And that is going to be a very, very special event held at L'Orage. This is the very first time we've done something on that scale, where we unite the swingers community, the BDSM community, the fetish community, for an event called Public Disgrace Labyrinth. And again, L'Orage gracefully opened their doors to our clientele, and they have a very unique place in Montreal. I mean, I think it's unique in the world in the sense that they have, I think, 12,000 square feet of perversion.
Wow.
All kinds of places.
I haven't seen the new place.
Oh, your mind will be blown. I tell you, I went there, and GP, the owner, offered, I will shut down Public Disgrace, and we're going to do an event together at Bain Mathieu. Big play party. And I looked at the place, I said 2 things. I said, if we shut down Public Disgrace at your venue, people are saying, yeah, there goes Éric again, trying to control everything and shutting down our great party. I don't want that, obviously. I mean, I'd like to be loved and not hated. And the other thing is, I said to GP, I said, you have a place that, I mean, it's mind blowing. I've never seen anything like that. How can it not be fun? So I said, we need to show your place to our international attendees. Then GP had another great idea, because he has great ideas. He said, let's do a secret party where no one knows where it's at. I said, GP, I think you need to think about that, because the whole point is to showcase l'orage. If it's a secret party, people will say, what's happening? Nobody's going to know that it's at l'orage until the very last minute. So I'm just going to warn all your viewers, if we ever do a secret party, please don't be too scared or don't hate me too much. It's just GP's fault. And in the end, it's going to be at l'orage. Not this year, but in the future. But
The not so secret party.
yeah, I mean, you know, and all these discussions, all this great intellectual, creative, ambitious talk is being held in the village at a nearby restaurant with an amazing waitress. Her name is Olivia, or Olive. But GP seems to have a fondness for that restaurant's food. Hint, hint. But anyways, long story short, we've got that. And this is going to set a precedent, because this is an amazing venue. And the price point of access, when you buy a VIP pass or weekend trio pass, you have access to all the partnership event. I mean, the city has never done that. Montreal has never done that during the Fetish weekend. And no other city in the world has ever done what we're doing this year.
It sounds, I feel like a lot of the detraction that you've had in the past, and like people were a little rancunière because of the burden that you have with Fetish Weekend, right? You have to make all these decisions, and then, oh, there's Éric doing this again.
Yeah, why are you doing a late ecstasy party at Saint Hubert Barbecue? Are you crazy? Well, you just see the face value.
Yeah.
There you go. You judge the book by its cover. You don't know. The Fetish Weekend is constant compromises.
It's hard to find places. It's hard to get
So
all
many-
this shit together. Yeah.
So many places closed in Montreal. I mean, in the last 3 years. But if you were to look in the last 15 years, I mean, I can count, I don't have enough fingers on two hands to enunciate all the venues that closed, that were welcoming to our people, our tribe, our marginality, our awkwardness. And I mean, now we're at the edge of the world right now. You know, we're at the edge of our resilience. We have to regroup and do something. So having all these satellite events, having that open-mindedness is really, for me, it's a breath of fresh air.
So if people want to be part of those satellites, if they want to work with you, how would they reach you for future? Because I imagine it's closed for this year.
No, it's still not closed.
Okay.
I mean, if somebody would reach out to me and they have something in Montreal Nord or a suburb, and they said, you know, we want to be a part of this, I will say, okay, what have you got? I will see if there's conflict of purpose. But if there is no conflict and there is a certain degree of harmony, I will say, yeah, let's put it on the schedule and see where it lands, you know, how it flies. So we're still not 100% close, but I would say for the future, I would urge people to contact us or contact you and say, oh, I don't like to talk to Éric because he never answers his emails. Bullshit. But if they feel like that and their point of entry into that world, that vessel is through you or through irony. Right now, everybody is communicating straight to irony. She's established their entity as its own vessel, and I'm so comfortable with that because it eases the burden for me. So I would like for people to communicate not just with me or the names on the website, but people can communicate through the satellite vessels. I say, hey, we have an idea. I want a Spitfire, and it's rope. And do you think the fetish weekend? Well, I can talk to Éric about it. You can talk to Éric, and then Éric will say, well, you started something. Why don't you nurture that person's vision or what they want? And gradually, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to allocate for each of us to have their own vision and say, well, Éric, we want to handle that. Or no, that's too much for us, or that's not we don't desire to be in that specific dynamic. So we will kind of spread the compromises. Okay, Sunday night, we're not done. So the new world, and I would have hoped that Rax or Roxanne would have been there this morning, but she has a real life, and basically I'm a promoter. But she is going to manage an event called Rituals, and normally it's at Cabaret Cleo on Sunday, and basically it's going to welcome mistresses, thespian artists, Simon, Justice, Diamond Blue, Malicia, Isis, Roxanne, Jonathan, Vanny, Julie, they're submissive. And they're going to create something where it's going to be pluridisciplinary. So there's going to be shows, but it's all going to be about the expression of transcendence. So it is going to be kind of a corpus type of thing, so a body of work. But the whole point is going to be to transcend it outside of the boundaries of perception through pluridisciplinary representation of art, sculpture, painting, stage performances. Like when you did the show at Cabaret King, you transcended what we had established. You brought some comedic elements, some fashion elements, some shibari elements, and that's what we're about. Burlesque King. Lights. I mean, two follow spots at the same time. I mean, I wanted to make sure that we're going to have some proper lighting for that one.
And theater.
Yeah.
But I think Roxanne has her own vision. She's curating the event. And I know that the concept of transcendence, be it from an artistic point of view, a spectatorship point of view, or a human point of view, specifically in her case, I think she wants to transcend her past and develop an alter ego through artistic representation. So herself, she is a pluridisciplinary artist. She's going to be accompanied by a pillar or the pillar. There's few pillars in the fetish weekend, but Ivan K, Mr. Ivan, is definitely a pillar. So sometimes you don't see him, but if there's a situation of chaos, any type of chaos, not security, but dynamics, as soon as he steps into the picture, it suits the situation. It is not a dynamic of force or strength. It is an abstraction of the need of force and strength to contain a situation. So be it from artistic, chaos, emotional, you definitely have a foothold in the village. It's a strong foothold. There's a certain dynamics, but without it, it would not be as charming. And it gives the Regie Meister a little bit of a challenge, a post-production challenge, if I may say, but nonetheless, a challenge. And what fun would we have in life if we would not have challenges to overcome? So,
anything after Cabaret King?
I think there's going to be some free-forming after parties. Then the next day we close with the farewell dinner, and the farewell dinner is going to be held at Bordel, which is an amazing venue in Old Montreal, very classy. We're looking into bringing some great burlesque show, but it's not so much performance oriented because it's the end of the week basically, and at that point people just want to exchange coordinates or just, I mean, it's an undefinable, I mean, especially for me, because I'm so tired by that point. People say, oh my God, they say on the Thursday or the Wednesday, Eric, you look so tired. Yeah, well, I've been sleeping 4 hours
Yeah.
per night for the last 6 weeks, and I'm going to be 57. So, yeah, it comes with the territory.
A burden.
Yeah, I mean, but aging
Yeah.
and, investing oneself into a purpose that is greater than our own is transcendence. It's a liberation. And this year, with your input, I mean, just doing this type of thing,
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever done that.
So I want to close this discussion
Please.
with, I want you to, you're passing on the torch. You want new people
Yes.
to come into the fetish weekend. You want it to continue to strive, right? What is your message to people who are refusing that change?
You're stupid. I mean, you're foolish, because if you refuse an open door to involved, whether it is critical or negative, I mean, you're stupid to refuse to get involved, because if you refuse, you by admission, you say that your input is not going to be heard. And it's completely the opposite. I mean, if somebody says, yeah, tap, 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 Eric, here's a bottle of wine or sake, you've done a great job. I mean, thank you so much. This is great. And bye-bye. But if somebody says, hey, I mean, I didn't like the party, I say, can I invite you for dinner? I want to hear the negative criticism. I want to see how we can improve the formula. So anybody that refuses to get involved, you're missing one of the most amazing adventures of a lifetime.
Mhm.
You have the chance to establish your identity. You have you can cross-pollinate, the birds, the bees, the rabbits and the hedgehogs, but you're part of a garden.
Yeah.
We open the gate of the garden. If you refuse that, you're going to go and you're going to find your comfort in 9 to 5 in a factory and a government ordained structure. Yeah, I know. It is intimidating. We open a garden and you can't even see you can't see the forest from the trees. But take the time to breathe and look at what's in front of you. It's not just the fetish weekend. It's Tension, it's L'Orage, it's L'Espace, it's Au Palace,
Mhm.
it's Club L, it's all these different artists, tattoo, fireplay, thespian arts, painting, anything. And this momentum, this idea of sharing what we can bring to the table and make Montreal a great touristic destination for fetish stuff and beyond. You know very well, it's not just the fetish weekend. Throughout the year, we cross-promote.
Mhm.
I mean, we follow the same ideals. Why do we cross-promote? To increase the business? No, we send beacons out there and say, hey, don't fight it. Just come and let's talk, let's dance, let's sing, let's celebrate our differences. Let's find the common ground and then let the egos step away and allocate a place for anyone to establish themselves. Oh no, I don't want to go at the fetish weekend. It's only this or that, or it's only, yeah, okay. Tell us what you want to do. Well, I want to go to the La Ronde in the roller coaster with people dressed in fetish weekend. Great, let's do it. Yeah, I want to do a cruise, I want to do something in my backyard. No problem. If we, we think that your idea can be fulfilled and you're not going to hurt yourself by having false hopes, and you're not going to hurt anyone, and you're going to add value to our communal ideology, great, let's do it. So I don't see why any, and you mentioned that, but I've never, over the years, I mean, maybe one person out of 100 people had resistance beyond that which I could personally resolve.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very rare. People like that, either they have a hidden agenda or they're broken. And we, in your field, our field, pro-doms, if you think these are fucked up people doing this and they're doing it just for the money, we should all be lawyers or real estate agents or politicians. And we chose a medium or a vessel that is completely fucked up, where it's impossible to properly succeed or make a living, and it takes years of sacrifice before you can reap the fruit and the juices from the fruit. No, we chose this idealism in our life because we're building a purpose that is greater than our own. And to build that, we have to allocate people who don't want to come in, to gradually come into the picture, and we have to give stage, light, sound, production value,
Mm-hmm.
a hug, a listening ear. Yeah, I talk too much, but I can shut up at time. And I tell people my biggest desire is to be silenced, not in the sense of bondage, but in the sense of contemplative or admirative value. Like sometimes I make a joke, but when I make a joke, it's one part of me talking. There's another part of me that's watching the reactions, the body language.
Yeah, and like you talked about this year taking a greater stance on like creating safer spaces or making it as safe for people as possible. Like I haven't heard much talk about that, to be honest.
It's outside right now. It's something that it's always been in my heart for years and years, ever since there was a Center for Alternative Lifestyles many years, and I found that anybody that generates a center of awareness, safer, consensual, I prefer that this is run by non-gender or women rather than the masculine perspective. So these chances, this occurrence of bringing, I can't even define it by gender, but a safer, a sanctuary type of place. Once in a while it happens. Every time it happens, I will nurture it. But I'm a man, at least physically, I identify myself as a man. Emotionally, I see no difference between my own expression of sensitivity, male or female, or my sexuality for that matter. But I realized that because of my position as a producer of the Fetish Weekend, I cannot hold the torch to safer consensual things. So anybody that's coming in from the outside will have yes, please represent it. What do you need? What can we do to help you on your mission? Can you answer my email? Yes, okay, you answer the emails. Great. How are you going to do it? Well, Eric, you're going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it for you. You're going to come and you say, this is what we want. We decided that we're going to do a dinner and we're going to talk about this. Great, no problem. You do a dinner. We said, no, we're going to take people and we're going on a farm on the Friday afternoon. Great, you go on a farm. We're doing a workshop. But it is a satellite of the Fetish Weekend, and it is at the same time within the Fetish Weekend. And I found that whoever started these things were not able, over the years, the 15, 18 years that we've had the fetish weekend, they were not able to sustain. So they were doing it for 3 years,
Yeah.
and then their lives were evolving. They never thought about getting subsidies from the government. Our satellite, our entities never sponsored properly whoever started that. We never went and said, well, you need to do this, but you need to have an auditor. You need to have somebody that verifies what you're doing. So when you go into something as sensitive as consensual play and safe play, you're going into huge liabilities. People can get hurt emotionally and physically. None of us have, at least I don't have a law degree. I'm not I don't have a doctorate in anything like that. I'm just a kid with no proper school.
So
Lots of improper school.
So our conversation about not being able to make Fetish Weekend a safer space, you took that to heart then? That's what I'm hearing.
Very much so.
Yeah, okay.
Because it resonated with something that's at the core of my being.
Yeah.
I have great difficulty when people get hurt that are clients, friends, or whoever, but I have greater difficulty. I cannot remain passive when somebody in a position of empowerment misuses the sacred bond of trust. Not just in play.
Yeah.
Play is, it's a station, it's a PlayStation, it's something like that, but people want to go on a PlayStation with you, and again, it's a metaphor, because of admiration, because of desire to be loved, because of a desire to surrender to one's projected or perceived wisdom or authority. I mean, when somebody is entrusting you with something as visceral as their emotional, psychological, and physical well-being, if anybody breaks that trust, that sacred bond, I cannot remain passive. So there's been threads, there's been stuff on public, and we're in a generation where we express our frustration and hurt in a text message or some kind of crazy virtual thing. Every time it came to my awareness, I never said anything publicly, but anybody that knows me knows that personally I intervene. I say, please come, let's have a hot chocolate, let's have a meal. I will listen to you.
Yeah.
If I can act upon it, I will. And sometimes I've acted in ways that would be extremely damageful to the reputation or the well-being of the fetish weekend. And not everybody knows about...
It's hard to keep that secret, and I have that same burden myself, right, running a space here. So I totally get that in that position. It's hard.
And if you will see, as the years will go, it takes a toll, because there's a part where people want you to be involved. There's a part where they perceive you as an outsider because publicly you don't comment. But nobody thinks about what are you doing privately.
Yeah.
Well, I think all the entities should create some kind of a pool for legal recourses. But who am I to say that? I mean, I can sometimes barely afford certain necessities in life, so it is not, I'm not complaining about my position, but I'm complaining about my lack of ability to, nourish the purposefulness of safe consensual play to the extent that it need nourishment. I mean, it's like putting a fox into what do you call that, the little chickens. Sometimes the person that says, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the safe keeper, and you look at that and say, okay, wow, I'm not sure that's a great person for that. And then 3 years later, you see that the whole thing would fall apart. And I've seen this over and over and over, and I'm praying not necessarily in a church, but I'm praying that this
The
this
kink church. Church
I'm-
of kink.
a church of kink or church of well-being. I pray in a church of well-being so that somebody never gets hurt. I've seen things happening. I've intervened quite a few times. I said, you've pushed the boundaries too far. This is not a healthy relationship. Sometimes we think, I don't want to go into details, but if somebody is flawed or coming with baggage or broken, sometimes it's not the best dynamics to be in a position of power unless you are supervised, unless you. So,
But we have this amazing weekend. We can bring these satellites together. You can visit them. You can get all the information that you need. And
where
make your
do we
own
get the information?
fetish weekend?
MontrealFetishWeekend.com or FetishWeekend.com.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine? We started, the first website was FetishWeekend.com, and then, ring, hey Eric, you want to sell me the website? I say no. It's you can. I'll put a link to your event. We can, but.
And we'll have a link on the thread. So
Yeah, and we have a link for
Yeah.
you guys. So if you go on MontrealFetishWeekend.com, you will have a link to all the satellite events. And the schedule is very complicated at the moment, so I will create an abridged version, and you click and you get into the in detail. I want to do this tonight, but this year is crazy. What we're achieving together can be the start or the continuation of a momentum that we started 3, 4, 5 years ago. And it's going to be an amazing place. And I think everybody that's watching this show is welcome to communicate
Yep.
with you and
and welcome here
get
to
involved.
learn and get involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
Please enlighten us.
You're putting me on the spot
Puis-
here.
Well,
The
you don't
luminaire.
have to have final thoughts. That's it.
Luminaire
I
céleste.
really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you
Yeah.
for joining us on the show.
It's always a pleasure to chat. And I've known you to follow up, so like whenever we work together, like we always have that closing conversation, and I've always appreciated that, to be honest. So
Well,
I'd like to thank you for that.
We also thought you were always reachable, at least to us, and easy to work with.
it's really a pleasure to have that dynamic, because in a certain way we've had a dialogue, but in another way I'm somewhat passive, and I'm looking at the evolution of what you've created, and I have a great admiration for what's being established here, and I will say your generation. I mean, I don't necessarily feel boundaries of time and age, but I can see some of myself when I was a musician and ambitious as a musician, and I can sense that you have this energy, but because of what you've established here, all the partners that you have, one of which is not here right now, I find that there is an amazing dynamic that goes beyond vision, but it is a communal identity that moves forward as one, dissolves, regroups, and it's like a breathing entity that you've created.
And I'd like to say on that, if ever you approach Eric with an idea or something, it has to be like cohesive, and you have to push it through. Like if you don't really know what you want, it's gonna petter out, and you're gonna lose that communication because Éric is all over the place. So
But
you have to
also-
have your own thing to push.
You also have to actually put in the work. Like, you're given a space to bring your idea to fruition, but nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
You have to do the
Yeah,
work.
you have to do this, but just to second what you're saying, when I do these types of abstract, all over the place, it is a study. It's like I'm in a kitchen and I'm cooking something, and by showing, I say, okay, you came with these ingredients, but where are the pots and pans, or what are the...
Okay, enough about the cock show. We're not gonna get into that.
The cock show. That's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? I mean, it's like it's cook show, but it's an O and a C. C-O cook, it's double O, but the two O's are eggs and they hit each other.
We'll have another talk about
Okay,
that some
yeah.
other
I
time.
think we
Éric.
need to wrap this up.
Thank you
Let's
very
wrap
much.
it. Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in.